Well, hi everybody. Today I am with Dawna Daigneault, and Dawna is a licensed professional counselor and developed worth conscious theory, which I'm so excited about. She's also a co-author and been in private practice for 20 years and co-authored a book with Chris Brown. And could you tell us the title?
Yes, I'm going to hold it up. So it's Understanding Self-Worth, and it's a guide to worth conscious theory and psychotherapeutic practice.
Super. Well, welcome, Dawna.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. I'm so glad you're here. So tell me, what's one thing you would love for the world to know?
What I've been working on and the research in understanding self-worth, we focus on becoming worth conscious. So taking consciousness and focusing it on self-worth and really in an effort to elevate human worth of everyone.
Yes, that was my first thought. That really elevates. That's so great. So tell me, Donna, how did you discover this?
I started thinking about self-worth really as early as my teens. I heard a lot about worth. The way I was raised, it was always rooted in a belief in God,
Hmm.
which isn't wrong. It was beneficial to me, and yet it turned into a worked for worth,
Mm,
which is not helpful to anybody. Then I started researching, like, where did the concept of worth originate from? And although I don't think any of us can find the formal origin, I did find some writings by, I think it was St. Augustine of Hippo, because he wrote a lot of things down. And a lot of his religious writings are still used today in the Western world. They've
okay.
influenced a lot of philosophy and religious leanings of many churches. And what you see in that is definitely a be good or a worked for worth ideology. And I don't find that that resonates with health and wellness,
Mm,
that the only way to be worthy is that you're constantly working to prove something that you already have.
of course. Yeah, that sounds almost impossible. Yeah,
Yes.
that's really interesting. Yeah.
Thank you. It's quite miserable. Then as I was a young mom, and then I went back to school when they were at a certain age. And so we were all in school. And then I started my private practice at the end of my fees. And as I was sitting with clients and with colleagues and the concept of self-worth would come up, I would just hear things that didn't land quite right, like that self-esteem and self-worth are the same in some research. And what I have found is that they both exist and they're connected, but they're not the same thing at all.
Wow. Super interesting. And so, what's the first step that someone would take?
That's a great question. Well, I think what we talk about is four pillars of worth. This is in the book. And so the first pillar is self-awareness. And I see that to be the first pillar in a lot of therapeutic modalities, because without awareness of something, you can't really add to it, make it yours, own it in any way. So being more aware of worth as a birthright, which is not worked for at all. Because you exist, you have it.
Okay. It's amazing. So that's the first pillar. Great. So what's a
Mhm.
common obstacle that people face?
Self-consciousness. It
Mm,
tends to be the opposite of being worth conscious. In fact, one of the things I noticed with my clients is I was seeing a lot of people talking about self-doubt, self-consciousness, self-loathing. And I would look for what's the opposite of self-conscious. And what I found is it was self-conscious or not, self-conscious or not. And this isn't very desirable, just not that, right?
yeah. Yep.
So I was like, well, what's all the way over here? And I was like, what counters self-consciousness? Like what really fully counters it? And I was like, it's feeling worthy. And then I went down a rabbit hole. I'm like, why doesn't everybody feel worthy? What are we doing wrong? And first it was like as a society, and then it was like kind of in the world. It's in lots of places that some people, groups of people, or even individuals in a family are not endowed with worth as a birthright. And I was perplexed by that. I'm like, why would that ever be okay? Why has that ever happened? Well, When we look historically at the benefit of making someone else feel less worthy, they're easier to push around. They're
Mm.
easier to control.
Yeah, I like that. That's an interesting rabbit hole. And I like where you started because when I work with parents on setting goals, I'm a play therapist, so I work with parents. They come in with what they don't want, but then when I look for the opposite, it's always not that. But we've got to flesh out, well, no, what do we want instead? We
Yeah.
want, whatever it may be, so that we can make a picture of it and really get into it like it sounds like you did.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So, how do I know if I'm doing it right?
You'll be able to have and hold your worth on a consistent basis. When I talk to clients about this and they're really struggling with believing they have worth, I'll make a fist like this and I'll say, let's say your worth is solid and let's say it lives right here because I think it's a heart thing more than a head thing. So I'm like, let's put your worth right here. And what I believe has happened to so many of us is that our family system and sometimes our community and larger systems have slid a condition right in on top of that worth. So when we look down to access it, we see the condition on top of it and we don't see the worth anymore. And then you can stack conditions. Every system can have different conditions, and they tend to be conditions for acceptability in the system,
Mm,
which means your worth is unimportant in that system. And so then we can slowly kind of let those conditions weigh that worth down and push it down to where we're really not connecting with it anymore. And that's our worth. We lose a connection with inside ourselves. It's there. We just lose that connection because all of those conditions stack up on top of it.
yes.
I'm sorry. Did I
No, it's
answer your
perfect.
question?
Yes, I was thinking so. So you help people to hold it here,
Yeah. And I'll say, we'll name the conditions. So
right?
I'll say, let's name a prevalent condition that they're aware of. Sometimes it's like, all my parents want me to do is be a dentist, right? That's
Sure.
so kind of a basic one. They all only want me to be blank, right? And I'll say, what happens when we slide that away? You can slide it back if you need to. Let's slide it away and you look down and that's not there. What is there instead? What is unconditional underneath all of those conditions? And it can take several sessions
Sure.
before the person believes this is as solid as it is. It's
Yeah.
there, it's just not well practiced.
That's beautiful. And I feel like it's so interesting because we might be a dentist, but then there might be a time that we have to retire from that, or we get older, like my mom, or we get sick, or something could happen. Of course, that the self worth, the worth is still there. The worth is
It
still
stays
there.
with us no matter what. And I mean, by the way, nothing against a dentist. It's against anything someone else wants us to be
Yeah.
that we may not want it, but we do it to stay acceptable.
They tie to their acceptance. And sometimes I'm thinking also of people who hold on to their worth and what it looks like when they do that. Sometimes it looks like a rejection of any kind of controlling thing or something. That's interesting.
Say more about that. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
fascinating. Yeah, sometimes people that are like, yeah, they hold on to themselves, but despite maybe pressures. People who don't fall for pressures so much.
That's right. That's the goal of the
Yeah,
model. And so the four pillars sit on a foundation of birthright self-worth.
yeah,
And so when you have awareness, here's the foundation. If you have awareness of that worth, pillar two is respect of that worth, esteem for that worth and in that worth, and then you have confidence in that worth. Then you build a life that's got worth as a foundation versus that foundation's there and there are conditions stacked on top of it. What ends up happening to an individual is they have awareness of the conditions. They learn to respect the conditions. Their self-esteem is tied to the conditions and they have
sure.
confidence, but in the condition.
Yeah, that the conditions that they're meeting the condition.
Yeah,
That's fascinating. I love the idea of just, I think did you say universal worth? Just, yes, just basic dignity, no matter how old we are, how young we are, what state of cognition or anything like that. So I'm
that's right.
really grateful for this conversation and for your work. And I can't wait to share this with everyone. So thank you
Okay.
for yeah, thank you. So yeah, that's our time, Donna, but I'm going to include all your contact info and the link for the book and everything.
Thank you. Yeah, include the website. We have a website for professionals.
Perfect. I'll make sure to put it in the description. Thanks again.
Thank you.